of the office in which I served.
All right,
We'll
see if you prevail. Sandra?
Mr. Vice President, you and I have talked a lot about the economy, and folks right now they're struggling through a lot of things, including 64% of the country living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation still sky high. It's a tough time for a lot of folks, and the Congressional Budget Office just came out and said that things could get even tougher as soon as this summer. They're saying the U.S. Treasury could run out of money to pay our government bills, that's including Social Security and military paychecks, by this summer. No official date has been given. Janet Yellen has warned it would be catastrophic if this happens. Should we raise the debt limit? What do you want to see happen with this?
Well, look, the Constitution is becoming a theme here. Look, the Constitution requires that we maintain the full faith and credit of the United States. And, I commend Speaker McCarthy for the way that he's engaged President Biden and said, look, we have to have budget cuts, we have to have reforms that are associated with, and but it's enormously important that we pay the nation's bills, and I'm confident that they will do that. All that being said, Sandra, I will tell you that to have a national debt the size of our nation's economy is unsustainable. The last time this happened, War II. And the only way we got over it was through sound economic policies and a post-war booming economy. Now we literally have a paralysis in Washington, D.C. that says we're never even going to talk about reforming 70% of the federal budget. That's what entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, are all in that cash. And we simply are not going to restore the fiscal health of this nation by simply nibbling at the edges of the federal budget. I submit to you that we have to have a conversation about reforming entitlements in the days ahead. I think we can replace the New Deal programs with a better deal. I think in Social Security, you can keep all the promises that you made to seniors. You can, people that will retire within the next 20 years, no changes, but to give options to younger Americans to invest a portion of their Social Security in a private savings account and get a better deal, I think is an idea whose time will come.
Do you think there's an appetite for that?
Look, it's all about leadership, Sandra. I really believe that. And we've achieved no major legislative changes in this country's history in the last century that weren't bipartisan. And I think we've got to produce leadership in this country that will square up with the American people and say we have a massive debt facing our children and those 2 new grandchildren that I just got last week.
Congratulations,
and there's a way we can do it. Thank you. There's a way we can do it and still keep all the promises that we made to seniors, but it's going to take leadership, it's going to take vision. We can replace the New Deal with a better deal, and I'm going to be a part of that conversation one way or the other.
Yeah, congratulations on the new grandbaby, by the way. I was eager to talk to you about this. I hope you have a thick pair of electrician's gloves, because you're about to touch the third rail of politics. And everybody knows, I mean, it's an open secret on Capitol Hill,
right,
that you can't do anything about the deficit and the debt until you reform entitlements like Social Security, right, Medicare, Medicaid. But nobody's willing to go out on a limb and do it. And now with you saying we have to have a conversation about reforming Social Security, President Biden's going to put you side by side with Rick Scott, who said all federal legislation should sunset within 5 years, even though he says, I don't want to get rid of Social Security. This is a dangerous topic to deal with, particularly if you're a Republican. But if you can't get buy-in from the Democrats, which you never will, why even talk about it?
Well, I will tell you that
good question.
My 2 new granddaughters are a big reason why. I mean, literally, my daughter-in-law and my daughter both had little children last week, 2 days apart. Both those families are in the military, and we couldn't have been more excited to be able to travel out at the last minute and be with them. But if you can look down in the eyes of those little babies and think that we're doing them right by piling a mountain range of debt on them and telling them, no, you go make the hard choices, then I think you got another thing coming.
But Biden's not going to say, oh, yes, he's right. You know, you look into the eyes of little babies and say, how do you saddle them with this debt? He's going to say, Republicans want to get rid of your Social Security. Right. Don't vote for them.
Yeah. I honestly think that the politics of this have been tough over the years. I was there. I supported President George W. Bush when he tried to bring some common sense reforms to Social Security back in 2005. But the national debt back then, John, was about $7 trillion. It doubled under the Biden administration. We were faced with the worst pandemic in 100 years and had to spend $5 trillion. We're now at $31.5 trillion in debt. That's larger than our economy. And I think it's going to call forth a moment of leadership where I think Americans of every age understand that we cannot stay on the path that we're on. But the falsehood is the idea that you've got to ask seniors or people that are going to retire in the next 20 years to make any changes. You don't. You can offer alternatives to younger Americans who won't think about retirement for decades, give them a better deal and still keep all the promises that we made to seniors. I just think I think you got to play it straight with the American people, and with a mountain range of debt facing those little granddaughters of mine, I'm going to be a part of that conversation.
All right, so you just mentioned age, and it seems to